Princess Zara stood at the tall window of her palace room. She looked out at the crystal towers that sparkled in the morning light. Her home planet was beautiful, but her heart was heavy with sadness. The same sad thought came to her mind every day. She could not have children. For 3 generations, no one in the royal family had been able to have babies. The doctors said it was because of a sickness in their blood. They called it the fertility plague. It made all the royal women unable to get pregnant. Zara was the last hope for her family line. Her father, Emperor Thanvel, was getting old. He needed her to have children so the royal family could continue. But after years of trying with the best doctors in the galaxy, nothing worked. Every treatment failed. Every medicine did nothing. Zara felt like she was letting down her entire people. The Velkari were a proud race. They had crystal-like skin that glowed softly in the dark. They could speak to each other with their minds without using words. Their technology was so advanced that other alien races looked up to them. But all their smart machines and clever doctors could not fix this one problem. Zara walked away from the window and sat down at her desk. On it were reports from doctors across 12 different star systems. She had sent messages to the best medical minds in the galaxy. All of them said the same thing. There was no cure. The royal bloodline would die with her. A soft knock came. At her door. "Come in," Zara said. An old Velkari man entered the room. His name was Keth Na, and he had been the royal science advisor for many years. His crystal skin was dim with age, but his mind was still sharp. "Princess, I have news," Keth Na said. "The humans have arrived." Zara looked up with mild interest. She had heard about humans before. They were a young race from a planet called Earth. Most Velkari thought humans were not very smart compared to other aliens. They had only just learned how to travel between stars. "Why should I care about humans?" Zara asked. Kethna smiled. "Maybe because they think differently than us. Sometimes when you have tried everything, you need someone who sees the problem in a new way." Zara thought about this. Every doctor she had seen was from an advanced alien race. They all used the same kinds of medicine and technology. Maybe Kethna was right. Maybe she needed someone who thought completely differently. "Tell me about these humans," she said. "They came on a ship called the Star Runner. Their leader is Captain Lisa Brooks, but the one who might interest you is Dr. Jake Collins. He studies alien biology. He wants to learn how different species live and grow." Zara felt a tiny spark of hope. "Do you think he might be able to help?" "I do not know," Kethna said honestly. "But what do we have to lose? You have tried everything else." That afternoon, Zara watched from a balcony as the human ship landed at the royal spaceport. The ship was much smaller than Velkari ships. It looked rough and simple compared to their smooth crystal vessels. But something about its sturdy design impressed her. 3 humans walked out of the ship. The first was a woman with short brown hair. She moved with the confidence of a leader. That must be Captain Brooks, Zara thought. Behind her came a man with dark skin and kind eyes. The third human was a woman with long black hair who carried several bags of equipment. The man with kind eyes looked around at the crystal towers with wonder. He pointed at different buildings and said something to his companions. Even from far away, Zara could see his excitement about being on a new world. That evening, there was a welcome dinner for the humans in the royal palace. Zara sat at the high table with her father and other important Velkari. The humans sat at a table below them. This was the custom for visiting aliens from less advanced worlds. Dr. Jake Collins spent most of the dinner looking around the great hall. He seemed amazed by the crystal walls that glowed with soft light. When Velkari musicians played their singing crystal instruments, his face lit up with joy. "He seems very curious," Zara whispered to Kethna. "Humans are known for their curiosity," the old advisor replied. "It is both their strength and their weakness." After dinner, Zara made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of leaving with the other royal family members, she walked down to the human table. "Dr. Collins," she said, "I would like to speak with you." Jake stood up quickly and bowed. His pronunciation of Velkari words was terrible, but he tried. to be polite. "It is an honor, Your Highness." "I have heard you study how different aliens live and reproduce," Zara said in English, which she had learned from studying other worlds. "Yes, that's right," Jake said. His eyes showed interest. "Every species has found different ways to survive and continue their genetic line. It's fascinating how life adapts to different conditions." Zara felt that spark of hope grow stronger. "What if I told you that my people face a problem that our best scientists cannot solve?" Jake's expression became serious. "I would say that sometimes an outside perspective can see things that specialists miss." "What kind of problem?" Zara looked around. Many Velkari were watching them. This was not the place for such a conversation. "Perhaps we could meet tomorrow, in private." "Of course," Jake said. "I would be happy to help in any way I can." As Zara walked away, she felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Maybe this strange human with his simple technology and different way of thinking could succeed where all the advanced alien doctors had failed. She did not know that this meeting would change not just her life, but the future of both their species. All she knew was that for the first time in a long time, she believed there might be a chance for her dreams to come true. That night, Zara looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere among them was Earth, the home of these curious humans. Tomorrow, she would trust one of them with her deepest secret and her greatest hope. The next morning, Zara met Jake in a small room deep inside the palace. She had chosen this place because it was far from the main halls where other Velkari might see them. Keth Na was there too, along with Dr. Amy Chen, the human woman with long black hair who had come with Jake's team. "Thank you for meeting with me," Zara said. "What I am about to tell you must stay secret." Jake nodded. "You have my word." Zara took a deep breath. "For 3 generations, no woman in my family has been able to have children. Our doctors call it the fertility plague. It affects only the royal bloodline. If I cannot have a baby, my family line will end forever." Amy leaned forward with interest. "Have your doctors found any cause for this condition?" "They have tried everything," Kethna answered. "Gene therapy, hormone treatments, quantum healing. Nothing works. The royal women's bodies simply will not accept pregnancy." Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. "May I ask what changed 3 generations ago? Was there anything different that happened around that time?" Zara and Kethna looked at each other. "That was when we built our new medical facilities," Kethna said slowly. "We upgraded all our technology to use quantum field generators." "Quantum fields," Amy repeated. "Those create specific frequencies, right?" "Yes," Kethna said. "They power our most advanced medical equipment. Why do you ask?" Jake's eyes lit. Because some frequencies can interfere with biological processes. On Earth, we've seen how certain electromagnetic fields can affect reproduction in animals. But our quantum technology is perfectly safe, Zara said. "We have used it for decades." "Safe for normal Velkari, maybe," Jake said. "But what if the royal bloodline has a genetic trait that makes you more sensitive to these frequencies?" Amy opened one of her bags and pulled out a small device. "We could test this theory. I need to take some blood samples and scan the quantum field levels in your medical areas." Zara felt nervous. "If my father finds out that I am working with humans on this problem, he will be very angry. The High Council thinks humans are too primitive to help with advanced Velkari medicine." "Then we work in secret," Jake said simply. "If we're wrong, no harm is done. If we're right, we might save your people's future." Over the next few weeks, the secret meetings continued. Jake and Amy set up their equipment in hidden labs beneath the crystal spires of the capital city. Zara would sneak down to meet them, always careful that no one saw her. The work was hard and slow. Amy ran test after test on Zara's blood samples. Jake studied the quantum field readings from all over the palace and medical centers. They worked late into the night, sharing ideas and theories. During these long hours, Zara got to know the humans better. Jake told her about Earth, with its blue skies and green forests. He spoke of human cities that grew up instead of glowing like crystal. Amy shared stories of her research into genetics and how life found ways to survive even in the hardest conditions. Humans are very different from Velkari, Zara said one night as they worked. Different how? Jake asked, looking up from his data. You seem to never give up. Even when something looks impossible, you keep trying new ways. Jake smiled. My grandmother used to say that humans are too stubborn to know when to quit. Maybe that's not always smart, but sometimes it helps. Amy suddenly looked up from her microscope. Jake, you need to see this. They gathered around her equipment. On the screen was an image of Velkari cells mixed with quantum field energy. Look at how the quantum frequencies affect the royal genetic markers, Amy said, pointing to the screen. The frequencies are scrambling the reproductive proteins. It's like static interfering with a radio signal. Jake studied the image. So the quantum technology that powers your medical equipment is actually causing the fertility problems. But why only the royal family? Zara asked. Amy pulled up another screen. Because you have a unique genetic sequence that makes you ultra-sensitive to quantum interference. Normal Velkari aren't affected because they don't have this gene. Kethna, who had been quiet, spoke up. This gene, it is what gives the royal family stronger telepathic abilities. It has been in your bloodline for thousands of years. So our greatest strength has become our weakness, Zara said sadly. Not necessarily, Jake said, his voice excited. Amy, show her the human genetic analysis. Amy switched to a different screen. Human genetics work very differently from Velkari genetics. We evolved on a planet with natural electromagnetic fields. Our genes have built-in protection against quantum interference. What are you saying? Zara asked. Jake and Amy looked at each other before Jake spoke. We think human genetic material might be able to stabilize Velkari reproductive systems. The human genes could act like a shield against the quantum interference. Zara's heart began to beat faster. You mean gene therapy using human DNA, Amy said. It's never been tried before, but theoretically, it could work. This is incredible, Zara whispered. Then her face fell. But the High Council would never allow it. They think human genetics are inferior. They don't have to know, Jake said. Not until we know if it works. Kethna looked worried. This is very dangerous. If you are caught, if we don't try, Zara's bloodline dies anyway. Jake said, at least this gives her a chance. Zara stood up and walked to the small window. Outside she could see the crystal towers glowing in the night. Her people had built such beautiful things, but their own progress was killing her family line. How? Would this gene therapy work? She asked. Amy hesitated. It would require integrating human genetic material directly into your reproductive system. The process would be complex and intimate. Intimate how? Jake cleared his throat. The genetic integration would need to happen at the cellular level. It would require a telepathic link between you and a human donor during the procedure. The mental connection would help guide the genetic bonding. Zara turned around. And you would be this donor? If you agree to try it, Jake said quietly. Zara looked at these humans who had become her friends. They were risking their diplomatic mission to help her. Jake was offering to undergo an unknown procedure that could be dangerous for him too. Why would you do this for me? She asked. Jake's answer was simple. Because everyone deserves a chance to have the family they want. And because sometimes helping others is what makes us human. 3 days later, their secret was discovered. A Velkari guard saw Amy entering the hidden lab. Within hours, Velkari security forces surrounded the underground research facility. As Jake and Amy were led away in energy restraints, Zara felt her world crashing down again. Her one hope was being taken from her, but she had not given up. The humans had taught her that sometimes being stubborn was exactly what you needed to survive. The High Council chamber was full of angry voices. Velkari nobles in their finest crystal robes sat in a circle around Emperor Thanvel's throne. They were all talking at once, and none of them were happy. The humans have corrupted the princess, shouted Lord Vextal. one of the oldest council members. They filled her head with primitive ideas about mixing our pure bloodline with alien genetics. This is what happens when we allow inferior species into our sacred halls, added Lady Morkin. Humans are barely more advanced than animals. Emperor Thanvel raised his hand for silence. His crystal skin was darker than usual, showing his deep worry. Zara, explain yourself. Why were you meeting secretly with these humans? Princess Zara stood in the center of the circle. She felt small and alone, but she remembered Jake's words about being stubborn. Father, they were trying to help me solve the fertility plague. Help you? Lord Vextal laughed harshly. What could humans possibly know about Velkari medicine? More than our own doctors, apparently, Zara said firmly. They discovered that our quantum medical technology is causing the fertility problems in the royal bloodline. The council members began arguing again. Some called her discovery impossible. Others said she was lying to protect the humans. Even if this were true, Emperor Thanvel said, what do you propose we do? Stop using quantum technology, go back to primitive medicine? Zara took a deep breath. This was the moment that would change everything. No, Father. I propose to undergo gene therapy using human genetic material. The chamber fell completely silent. For a moment, no one moved or spoke. Then the shouting began louder than before. Contamination. Disgrace. Genetic pollution. The nobles were outraged. Silence. The Emperor roared, and his voice echoed off the crystal walls. Zara, do you understand what you are suggesting? You want to mix human DNA with a sacred royal bloodline? I want to save the royal bloodline, Zara replied. The humans discovered that their genetics have natural protection against quantum interference. By integrating their genetic material with mine, we could overcome the fertility plague. Lady Morkin stood up, her crystal skin glowing red with anger. I would rather see the royal line end than see it polluted with inferior alien genetics. Then you are a fool, Zara said, surprising everyone with her sharp words. You would choose pride over survival. Meanwhile, in the palace prison, Jake and Amy sat in a cell made of energy fields. Captain Lisa Brooks was in the cell next to them. They had all been arrested for genetic contamination conspiracy. I'm sorry I got you into this, Jake said, to Amy. I should have been more careful. Amy shook her head. We did the right thing. If we helped Zara figure out the cause of her people's fertility problems, it was worth the risk. Easy to say when we're about to be exiled from the galaxy, Lisa said. But she didn't sound angry. She sounded proud of her crew. Pete Martinez, their engineer, was in a different cell. He had been caught trying to send a message to Earth about their discovery. Hey, Doc, he called to Jake. Do you really think this gene therapy idea could work? Theoretically, yes, Jake replied. Human and Velkari genetics are more compatible than anyone realizes. Our evolutionary paths were different, but the basic biological structures are similar enough for limited integration. Limited how? Amy asked. The human genetic material wouldn't change Velkari DNA completely. It would just provide a stabilizing factor for reproductive proteins, like adding a filter to protect against interference. Back in the council chamber, Kethna had arrived to speak for the humans. The old scientist looked tired but determined. Your Majesty, he said, I have spent 50 years studying genetics. The human theory is sound. Their discovery about quantum interference explains everything we could not understand about the fertility plague. You support this madness? Lord Vextal demanded. I support saving the princess and the royal bloodline, Kethna replied. Which is more important, our pride or our survival? Emperor Thanvel was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. Even if I agreed to this experiment, the procedure itself could be dangerous. We have never attempted genetic integration between different species. The humans have studied it, Zara said. Dr. Collins knows how it could be done safely. Doctor. Collins is in prison, Lady Morkin pointed out. Then release him, Zara said simply. The Emperor looked at his daughter. She was his only child, his heir, and his heart. But she was also the future of their entire civilization. I cannot make this decision alone. he said finally. The council must vote. The debate went on for hours. Some nobles supported Zara's proposal because they feared the end of the royal line. Others opposed it because they believed genetic purity was more important than survival. As the arguments continued, Zara made another shocking announcement. I volunteer to be the first test subject, she said. If the procedure fails, I will be the only one at risk. If it succeeds, it could save not just the royal bloodline, but any Valkyrie affected by quantum interference fertility problems. Absolutely not, the Emperor said immediately. I will not risk my daughter's life on an untested procedure. Father, my life is already at risk, Zara replied. If I cannot have children, what kind of life is that for a princess? What kind of future is that for our people? Young Lord Ketvor, one of the few progressive nobles, stood up. The princess speaks wisdom. Sometimes great risks are needed for great rewards. She speaks foolishness, Lord Vextal countered. This is exactly the kind of reckless thinking that humans are known for. Maybe that's what we need, Zara said. Maybe we've become too careful, too set in our ways. Maybe we need some human recklessness to solve problems that careful thinking cannot fix. The vote was close. 7 nobles supported the experiment. 8 opposed it. Emperor Thanvel had the deciding vote. He looked at his daughter, standing, brave and determined in the center of the chamber. Then he thought about the empty royal nurseries, the unused children's rooms, the dynasty that would die with her. I abstain from voting, he said finally. This decision is too important for politics. Zara, the choice is yours alone. Zara felt the weight of history on her shoulders. Every royal ancestor, every future that might never exist, all depended on what she said next. I choose to try, she said. Release the humans. Let us attempt the impossible. That night, a small group of progressive Valkyrie scientists led by Kethna helped Jake and his team escape from prison. They set up a secret laboratory in an abandoned crystal mine outside the capital city. As they prepared for the procedure that could save or doom the royal bloodline, Jake looked at Zara. Are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. Zara smiled. Humans aren't the only ones who can be stubborn when it matters. Outside the mine, 2 groups of Valkyrie gathered. Some came to support their princess. Others came to arrest her for treason. The future of 2 species hung in the balance, and nobody knew which way it would fall. The secret laboratory in the crystal mine was cold and dim. Ancient mining equipment lined the walls, covered in dust from years of abandonment. But in the center of the cave, modern medical equipment glowed with soft light. Kethna and his team of progressive scientists had worked all night to set everything up. Jake lay on one medical table while Zara lay on another nearby. Dozens of thin cables connected them to machines that hummed quietly. Dr. Amy Chen checked the equipment one more time. The genetic integration chamber is ready, she announced. The quantum field generators are calibrated to human-safe frequencies. How long will the procedure take? Zara asked. Her voice was calm, but Jake could see worry in her crystal blue eyes. 6 hours for the initial integration, Amy replied. Then we wait to see if your body accepts the human genetic material. Outside the mine, Captain Lisa Brooks kept watch with Pete Martinez and several Valkyrie scientists. They had set up communication devices to warn the others if anyone approached. Any word from the capital? Pete asked. Lisa shook her head. The city is split in half. Some support the princess, others want her arrested. The Emperor has locked himself in the palace and won't see anyone. Back inside, Jake reached over and took Zara's hand. Ready? Zara squeezed his fingers. As ready as anyone can be for something that's never been done before. Amy activated the first sequence. Energy fields surrounded both tables, creating a soft blue glow. Beginning genetic mapping, she said. Jake, I need you to establish telepathic contact with the princess. This was the hardest part. Humans were not naturally telepathic like Valkyrie, but during their weeks of working together, Jake had learned to open his mind to Zara's mental voice. He closed his eyes and concentrated. Slowly, He felt Zara's thoughts touching his mind. "I can hear you," her mental voice whispered. "I'm here," Jake thought back. "We'll do this together." Amy began the genetic extraction. Machines drew samples from both Jake and Zara, breaking down their DNA into component parts. On screens around the room, genetic codes scrolled past in streams of data. "Human protective sequences identified," Amy announced. "Beginning integration protocol." The next few hours were the longest of Jake's life. The machines worked to weave human genetic material into Valkyrie reproductive cells. Through their telepathic link, he could feel every stage of the process affecting Zara. Sometimes she felt pain, and Jake tried to share it with her to make it easier. Sometimes she felt fear, and he sent her thoughts of hope and courage. They were connected in a way that no human and alien had ever been connected before. "Integration at 60%, Amy called out.
Genetic bonding is holding stable. Kethna watched the screens with amazement. The human genetic sequences are acting exactly as predicted. They're creating a protective barrier around the Valkyrie reproductive proteins. But then something went
wrong. Alarms began beeping and red lights flashed on the medical displays. "What's happening?" Zara asked, her mental voice full of worry. Amy's face was tense as she checked the readings. "Your body is starting to reject the human genetic material. Your immune system sees it as foreign and is trying to destroy it. Can you stop the rejection?" Jake asked. "Not with our current methods," Amy said. "We need deeper integration, but that means—" "What?" Zara demanded. Amy looked uncomfortable. "It means Jake would have to share more than just genetic material. He would need to share his life force, his essence. It would create a permanent bond between you." Jake didn't hesitate. "Do it." "Jake, no," Zara said out loud. "It could kill you." "And if we stop now, it will definitely kill your bloodline," Jake replied. "Amy, start the deep integration." "This is insane," Kethna muttered. But he helped Amy prepare the equipment. The new procedure was unlike anything anyone had ever attempted. Machines reached deeper into both Jake and Zara, connecting them not just genetically but spiritually. Through their telepathic link, Jake felt his own life energy flowing into Zara. The process was exhausting. Jake felt like his strength was being drained away, but he held on. He thought about Zara's dream of having children. He thought about saving an entire bloodline. He thought about the future that might exist if they succeeded. "Integration at 90%, Amy announced, but her voice sounded far away. Jake's vision began to blur. His heart was beating too slowly. The machines around him started showing dangerous readings. "Jake!" Zara's voice called to him, both out loud and in his mind. "Stay with me." But Jake was falling into darkness. The last thing he heard was Amy shouting medical commands and machines beeping urgent warnings. For 3 days, Jake lay in a coma. His body had been pushed beyond its limits by the deep integration procedure. Amy and the Valkyrie doctors worked constantly to keep him alive. Zara never left his side. She held his hand and spoke to him, even though he couldn't respond. Through their new bond, she could feel that he was still there, somewhere in the darkness. "The genetic integration is complete," Amy told her on the second day, "but we won't know if it worked until Jake wakes up." "Will he wake up?" Zara asked. Amy looked tired and worried. "I don't know. He gave more of himself than we thought was possible. The bond between you is keeping him alive, but barely." On the third day, news reached them that Valkyrie security forces had found their location. Conservative nobles led by Lord Vextal were coming to arrest everyone and stop the experiment. "We need to move Jake," Captain Brooks said. "They'll be here in hours." "He's too weak to move," Amy protested. "It could kill him." Zara made a decision that surprised everyone. "Let them come. I won't run anymore." "Princess," Kethna started to say. "No," Zara said firmly. "Jake risked everything for me and my people. The least I can do is face the consequences of our choice." An hour later, Valkyrie soldiers surrounded the mine. Lord Vextal himself came to arrest them. "Princess Zara," he announced as he entered. The laboratory. You are under arrest for genetic contamination and treason against the Velkari bloodline. I am guilty of trying to save my people, Zara replied. If that is treason, then I accept the charge. Lord Vextal looked at Jake's unconscious form connected to life support machines. And this human? What is his condition? He is dying because he tried to help us, Zara said. Does that make you proud? For a moment, the old noble looked uncomfortable, but then his face hardened again. Sympathy for aliens is exactly what led to this disaster. Guards, arrest them all. As the soldiers moved forward, Jake's eyes suddenly opened. He was weak and could barely speak, but he was awake. Zara, he whispered. She rushed to his side. I'm here. You're going to be okay. Jake looked at the Velkari soldiers surrounding them. Did it work? The integration? Amy checked her medical scanners. Her face showed amazement. Jake, the genetic bonding is perfect. Not only did it work, but Zara's body is already showing signs of reproductive recovery. What does that mean? Zara asked. Amy smiled for the first time in days. It means you can have children now. The human genetic material has completely neutralized the quantum interference. You're pregnant, princess. The procedure worked. Lord Vextal stared at them in shock. Around the laboratory, everyone was silent. Against all odds, the impossible had happened. The royal bloodline was saved, and everything was about to change. News of Princess Zara's pregnancy spread across the Velkari homeworld like fire through dry grass. In the capital city, crowds gathered in the crystal squares. Some celebrated the return of hope to the royal bloodline. Others protested against what they called genetic contamination. Lord Vextal stood in the crystal mine laboratory, staring at the medical readings that proved Zara was indeed pregnant. His hands shook slightly as he held the scanner. This changes nothing, he said, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. The child will be a half-breed abomination. The child will be the future of our people, Zara replied firmly. She sat beside Jake's medical bed, her hand resting on her still flat belly. Jake was getting stronger each day. The deep integration procedure had created a permanent bond between him and Zara. He could feel her emotions and she could sense his thoughts. It was unlike anything either species had experienced before. Princess, one of the Velkari soldiers said nervously. What? Are your orders, Lord Vextal? The old noble looked around the laboratory. At Jake recovering from nearly dying to help them. At Amy and the other humans who had risked their careers for Velkari strangers. At Keth Na and the progressive scientists who believed in change. We return to the capital, he said finally. The Emperor must decide what to do. The journey back to the royal palace was tense. Crowds lined the crystal roads, some cheering and some shouting angry words. Zara rode in the royal transport with Jake, who was still weak but insisted on staying by her side. Are you afraid? Jake asked quietly. Zara touched her belly where their child was growing. Terrified, she admitted, but also hopeful. For the first time in years, I feel like the future is possible. At the palace, Emperor Thanvel waited in his private chamber. When Zara entered with Jake beside her, the old ruler looked older than his years. Is it true? He asked without ceremony. Are you carrying a child? Yes, father, Zara said. The human genetic integration worked. I am pregnant with a healthy baby. The emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He began to cry. I had given up hope, he whispered. I thought our family line would die with you. I thought I had failed my ancestors and my people. Zara knelt beside her father's chair. You didn't fail anyone. You gave me the freedom to choose my own path. But the child will be half human, the emperor said. The nobles will never accept a hybrid heir. Jake stepped forward, still weak but determined. Your Majesty, with respect, maybe it's time for the nobles to change. Zara and I have proven that humans and Velkari can work together. Our child will be living proof that cooperation is stronger than isolation. Over the following weeks, the debate raged throughout Velkari society. Conservative nobles demanded that Zara give up her claim to the throne. Progressive groups rallied to support her and the new possibilities that human-Velkari cooperation could bring. Meanwhile, Amy made another important discovery. The genetic integration that had saved Zara could be adapted to help other Velkari affected by quantum interference fertility problems. It's not just the royal bloodline, she explained to a gathering of Velkari scientists. About 15% of your population carries genes that make them sensitive to quantum fields. We could help thousands of families. Dr. Jake Collins, now recovered from the integration procedure, became the head of a new interspecies medical research program. Velkari and human scientists worked together to refine the genetic therapy techniques. It's ironic, Jake told Zara one evening as they walked through the palace gardens. Your people thought humans were too primitive to help with advanced medicine. But sometimes primitive solutions work when advanced ones fail. Zara laughed, a sound that had become more common as her pregnancy progressed. My grandmother used to say that wisdom can come from the most unexpected places. Your grandmother sounds like she would have liked humans, Jake said. I think she would have loved you, Zara replied, squeezing his hand. But not everyone was happy with the changes. A group of conservative nobles led by Lady Morkin began planning a rebellion. They refused to accept a half-human heir to the Velkari throne. We must preserve the purity of our bloodline, Lady Morkin declared at secret meetings. If we allow this contamination to continue, we will lose everything that makes us Velkari. The rebellion came to a head when Zara was 6 months pregnant. Conservative forces tried to seize control of the capital while the emperor was visiting outer provinces, but they had underestimated how much Velkari society had changed. Common people, inspired by Zara's courage and the promise of new medical treatments, rose up to defend the royal family. Human diplomats, led by Captain Lisa Brooks, worked with progressive Velkari to maintain peace. Pete Martinez used his engineering skills to keep communication systems running when the rebels tried to cut them off. This is what cooperation looks like, Brooks told the rebels during negotiations. Humans and Velkari working together to solve problems instead of fighting over who's superior. The rebellion collapsed when Emperor Thanvel returned with loyal military forces, but instead of punishing the rebels harshly, he offered them a choice. You can continue to fight change and watch our civilization stagnate, he announced. Or you can help us build a future where Velkari and human strengths combine to make both our peoples stronger. Many of the conservative nobles chose cooperation over continued conflict. 9 months after the genetic integration procedure, Princess Zara gave birth to a healthy baby girl. The child had her mother's crystal-like skin, but it glowed with a softer, warmer light. Her eyes were human blue like her father's, but they sparkled with Velkari intelligence. She's beautiful, Jake whispered as he held his daughter for the first time. What shall we name her? Zara asked. They had discussed many names, but when Jake looked at their child, one name felt perfect. Luna, he said, like Earth's moon that lights up the darkness. Lunavel, Zara added, giving the child a Velkari royal name as well. The naming ceremony was held in the Great Crystal Hall where Zara had first met the human delegation. Representatives from dozens of alien species came to witness this historic moment. Baby Lunavel was the first human Velkari hybrid in galactic history. But more than that, she represented hope for cooperation between different species. As Luna grew, she displayed remarkable abilities. She could communicate telepathically, like Velkari, but she also had human creativity and adaptability. She could sense quantum fields like her mother's people, but she was not affected by the interference that had plagued the royal bloodline. She's going to change the galaxy, Amy said one day as they watched 2-year-old Luna playing in the garden. The little girl was making crystal flowers glow by touching them while laughing with pure human joy. Jake and Zara had established research centers on both Earth and the Velkari homeworld. Scientists from both species worked together to develop new medical treatments, new technologies, and new ways of understanding the universe. We've proven that our differences make us stronger, Zara said. Humans bring curiosity and determination. Velkari bring knowledge and wisdom. Together we can solve problems that neither could solve alone. Other alien species began requesting help with their own fertility and genetic problems. The Human-Velkari medical partnership became famous throughout the galaxy. Years passed and Lunavel grew into a remarkable young woman. She had her mother's diplomatic skills and her father's scientific curiosity. But most importantly, she had something entirely new, the ability to see beyond the boundaries that separated different species. Luna will probably become the first hybrid ambassador in galactic history, Jake told Zara one evening as they watched their teenage daughter giving a speech to young Velkari and human students. I think she'll become much more than that, Zara replied. I think she'll show the galaxy what's possible when we stop fearing our differences and start celebrating them. The story that began with a dying royal bloodline had become a tale of new life and new possibilities. Princess Zara had her children. The Velkari Empire was stronger than ever, and the galaxy had learned that sometimes the most unlikely partnerships create the most extraordinary results. In the end, it wasn't superior technology or ancient wisdom that saved the royal bloodline. It was something much simpler and much more powerful: the willingness of different beings to help each other, no matter how impossible the task seemed. And in her palace room, Princess Zara would sometimes look out at the crystal towers and remember the day she first met a curious human doctor who refused to give up. Their love story had become a legend, but their daughter's future would become something even greater: proof that the universe was big enough for all its children to thrive together.